With the arrival of Gilgamesh in Civ 7, we have to ask one question. What does a guy have to do to make a new friend in this place? And how can he reconcile his military ways with his diplomatic tendencies? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at today. We'll start by going over Gilgamesh's kit. His attributes are diplomatic and militaristic. In my most recent video, if you happen to see it, I talked about my strong interest in this diplomatic militaristic combo with Lakshmi Bai and Saida al-Hura. And with Gil, we have yet another variation on this idea, except that he is more likely to leverage his diplomatic abilities to keep the peace, even if having a good, steady friend sets him up to be better positioned if he goes to war. So let's break down the different aspects of his ability, which is actually more like 5 abilities, which is fine. So the once mortal, twice divine. Gain +2 war support when you have exactly 1 ally. Well, this, of course, is a nod to Gil's mythic friend Enkidu. Throw in the anti-Machiavel's +2 war support, and you can go almost full-on Harriet Tubman for war support with him. When you defeat an enemy unit, gain influence equal to 50% of its combat strength. Now, this mimics Lakshmi Bai's ability to get influence per kill. And these 2 abilities are the most obvious military threats he poses, these first 2. After that, we move into the even more diplomatic side. All basic endeavors are unlocked. Boom! You get a head start on the kinds of deals you can offer to the first person you meet. You're often limited in that regard, but it's wide open for Gil. Endeavors with allies don't count against the limit of having 1 endeavor of a given type active at one time. Now, this outdoes one of Benjamin Franklin's abilities, sort of. Your allies get you freebies on the deal front. So if you decide you don't want just 1 ally and the war support bonus that comes with that, you can get multiple allies and duplicate deals with each of them. Actually, it sort of reminds me of Himiko, Queen of Wa as well, a little bit. Plus, each type of deal with other non-allied leaders. So you can also get deals with non-allies, 1 of each type for each of them, plus 1 of each with all of your allies. Oh, wow. Anyway, you're going to need a lot of influence, though, to keep up with that pace. A ton of influence. Now, it sounds very bureaucratic in a way if you're relatively new to the game. But honestly, the more I look at this, the more interesting it gets. Allies can support your endeavors for free. Now, it's hard to gauge exactly the impact of this. This one is for the friends, right? Gil makes himself an attractive catch on the international scene just by picking up the check to start a deal, right? It's not clear just how this ability affects your allies' inclinations, though, to support your endeavors. By the numbers, I mean. I'd like to see the numbers on this, but we really don't. It's an interesting add-on, though, and it really kind of completes the whole package. I don't know. Because I like the diplomatic game so much, I like this whole setup. His agenda, ally of Enkidu, increased relationship by a medium amount with leaders who have started or supported the most endeavors. Okay, so you like people who are making deals too. But decrease relationship by a small amount with leaders in alliances with others. Huh. So when we look over the whole package here, a picture emerges of a guy who lives to be an influencer and just wants to have a buddy, but will settle for having a crew and likes to see people supporting deals with everyone, but doesn't like to see anyone form their own crew. I think that sums it up. Let's see, his mementos here. Magic plant. Magic plant alone is really cool. Friendly greetings give 100% relationship increase. So what does that look like? Recently, I started giving friendly greetings to other leaders at the first meeting because it made it a little harder for them to suddenly turn on me, or it made it a little easier for me to work on them and get an ally. So imagine how I feel now about having a plus 20 greeting suddenly become a plus 40. This memento alone, if you're playing a game that relies on one or more ally, is one you have to have. It's pretty cool. Puku is specifically designed for Gil. If you go all in on that one friend game, then the extra happiness gives you more flexibility about settlement limits, which in turn gives you more military options. I don't want you to walk away and think that all the influence and happiness is about peace and good bromanship. Then we've got Miku, and its plus one influence for having only one ally again plays into a very specific Gil-guided game. And as I describe these to you, I'm already putting together my painfully obvious strategy. My take on this is that game-wise, Gilgamesh could certainly work as a warmonger. Influence and happiness are ways to leverage military power, but they are, of course, also ways to leverage pure expansionism if you're in more of a SimCity mood. And it wouldn't be hard to imagine mixing a little warmongering business with a little friend-making pleasure. Now, just because I like trying out a leader to their fullest extent, I'm going to use the More Fun and Better Mementos mod, as well as the Unlock All Mementos mod, so I can try out all three mementos in one game. That is cheating, I know. But I'm doing it for you, friend. As for the Civ, I'm going to disappoint you with a boringly obvious choice. Sometimes I like to experiment a bit, but I gotta go with Greece. I like the influence on the palace and the traditions giving you influence over city-states, endeavors, and sanctions. And I've long considered the hoplites as a stronger defensive rather than offensive unit, which goes nicely with Gil's +2 war support. There are several other civs that could work nicely, though. I mean, I think Shilla or Tonga would be cool with all the influence going on there. And the Maya or Assyria or Persia, if you want to go more military, would be great as well. And during the Firaxis workshop, I went through all three ages with Gil and Rome. And that was a lot of fun, even if Rome isn't the most obvious choice for him. They actually strike a good balance between light influence, sturdy military, and man-spreading settlements. But like I said, for today, Greece is the word. I've gone with a regular continents and islands map to make sure he meets someone relatively quickly. Yes, I'm going to be his wingman and find him that one true friend he's been looking for. We've got a standard map size, nerfed independent powers, and we've unlocked the Civ Chooserapalooza, so we can go where our heart takes us if we continue into exploration and beyond. Now, the game begins innocuously enough, and I meet Ada soon afterwards. Could she be the one? Do I want to make a friend who's close by, or do I want to have one I'm not going to immediately tick off by settling too near to her, or taking a good spot, or snoring, or anything else? Soon after that, I meet Ashoka, the Renouncer, and I think his happiness vibe might be a better match. And as if it's an omen, I come across Iguazu Falls, a source of food and happiness that I managed to eventually settle. Soon after that, I find the Mapuavea blowholes with their production and happiness bonuses. But I can't settle immediately adjacent to them because the only bit of land they're near is surrounded by cliffs. So I settle for just catching one corner of their bonuses. It's the best I can do. As for Ada versus Ashoka, It's soon obvious to me that Ashoka is the one. I mean, his friendliness numbers are consistently better than hers, so there's that. If only real life worked that way, right? Maybe, though, I settled Sparta a teensy bit too close to Parsa. Well, anyway, I had my ally, and the world was my oyster. Let the bonuses roll in. Cut to the credits. Yeah, well, maybe not just yet. I had a thought. Inspired by the Firaxis workshop, actually. I don't know if you've looked at the info on the website with the single screenshot of a Triumph screen for the coming, Triumph edition to the game. You have this League of Legendary Friends. Be allied with everyone in the homelands. The first friendship had come so easily, and I hadn't given up yet on Ada. With Gil's unique powers of persuasion, I could get all the leaders on board. I didn't even care what the reward was, or, would be when the game's eventually revamped. Friendship is its own reward, right? Well, there's a reason it's a major triumph, I guess. Let's see why. But first of all, let me just give a shout out to the 1.3.2 update and say that the nested tooltips were a big help throughout the game. And the readability seems to be better now, and that was even more important to me than anything else. I can tell because I didn't get up from playing every now and then to straighten my back out from bending towards the screen. Anyway, in the game, I'm back there now. I meet Tubman, and for sure I know when game meets game, we are not going to war because it would be an immovable object versus an immovable object. And then I decided to build the Hanging Gardens, just to remind Gil of his homeland. After that, Genghis shows up on my doorstep like an old college roommate, and we start getting along right away. I don't think this is what led to it, but not that long after, Ashoka dumped me as an ally. He was still giving me the thumbs up, but we were no longer besties. Instead of looking for closure, I built the Oracle, did some soul searching, and made Confucius an ally pretty much a minute and a half after I was dumped. Pretty much the time of a commercial break in some quickly developing soap opera. It's quite a come down to go from the Epic of Gilgamesh to As the World Turns, but maybe there's not that big a difference in the end. And with a soap opera turn not long after this, Confucius had to go to war and came looking for my support. But I just wasn't ready for that kind of commitment, and I said I couldn't support his actions. So we became close acquaintances, remembering what we had had and smiling. It took me almost 9 whole minutes before I allied with Genghis. Maybe he was more than just a sloshed, froshed drinking buddy after all. 10 minutes later, Ada declared war on me. Wait, what? This was supposed to be a soap opera, and she's gone and confused genres on me? War? Me? Ada? Me? I tried to talk her out of it to the tune of plus 14 war support, but she wouldn't turn away from the coming conflict. And then, as if injury wasn't enough, then came the insult, and Ashoka declared war on me too. I think it was out of jealousy or spite. Or maybe it was the fact that I had no defenders in almost any of my settlements, which made it even worse. Taking advantage of me when I was down? For shame. I gradually fended off Ada, although I almost lost Sparta to her. She ended up giving me Tarsus, but never really mellowed out for the rest of the game. Ashoka, though, kept coming at me, and he had his eye on 3 of my settlements. But it was my most far-flung one, Corinthos, that he finally nabbed. I wheeled around and took Thessaly after a lot of blood and tears. They were pretty much equal in terms of size. And then I started marching on Corinthos. Ding, the age had ended. It turns out that in the middle of all this emotional back and forth, I had almost forgotten to rack up some points. I did finish the Great Library Legacy Path, but fell one commodity short in the Silk Road Path. Tubman and I tied with 9 legacy points apiece. Okay. In any case, it turned out to be a lot of fun. And I'm not just saying this to get you to buy Gilgamesh, because he's free. He definitely lives up to his image from Civ 6. But did I learn something important here? Well, I learned that making friends and keeping friends are 2 totally different things. But with Gilgamesh, there's always another smiling face around the corner. It's very different from playing with a non-Gilgamesh leader, where it's hard to make up the lost friend points. And you have to get to know a friend's agenda. That might be where I screwed up in both cases. The funny thing is, the game played out like the 2 sides of the Gilgamesh coin, the relationship side and the warlike side. If every game with him were like that, I'd be hooked. Hopefully, this video has hooked you enough to like it or to subscribe. Both options down below. This has been Civilized Raccoon, and I'll see you next time.